Welcome everyone to Haven of Horror. As always, I am Subject. I have Robert through the Valley Wild, who is here to
Hello.
disagree with
Good
me
to
on
meet you.
everything with this show, because he's a little bitch. No, kidding, kidding. Robert, are you surprised it's happened already?
No, based on, are we just gonna say full spoilers? Like, just do not watch this if you haven't seen the episode yet.
If you haven't seen the episode and don't know the game, don't watch this. There's no way to talk about this without
Yeah,
spoilers, full spoilers. Um, okay, can I tell you what made me laugh?
go for it.
This was the Easter episode.
Yeah, no kidding. It's funny is we used to run into this a lot with Walking Dead because their mid-season breaks, of course, would be during winter, and then they'd often come back around spring, and there would usually be an Easter Walking Dead episode. So I've been here before.
Um, okay, so
But to answer your question from a second ago, though, am I surprised that the big thing happened this week? I am not, based on how the first episode turned out. I figured this was coming in episode two.
I thought maybe we'd get more of the flashbacks. Um, okay, so I'm going to preface this by saying I liked this episode. I have problems with it, but it didn't ruin it. I do want to get my best thing out of the way because I've been dying to talk with you about it. The song at the end was the best thing.
I thought of you when that cued in. It's funny. So I was expecting a song of some sort to play during the end of this episode after, you know who dies. I
Mhm.
figured, okay, they'll probably play a song like Future
Wait,
Days or
Voldemort dies
something.
in this show?
That did happen. Um, so I figured, okay, they'll probably play Future Days or something like that for the end of this episode. But given that the title of this episode is Through the Valley, I should have figured that they'd play Through the Valley. But in my defense, the first episode was titled Future Days, and they did not play Future Days. So that wasn't even on my radar. And it
No,
was specifically the Ashley Johnson cover. That was
yes,
just perfect.
it capped
It's just
off
funny
this
because we've been
episode
talking about that
perfectly.
song. It's just funny
Yeah.
because we've been talking about that song a lot recently, and oh my god! And you know that one of my big things I was hoping for the season was some songs sung by Troy Baker or Ashley Johnson to have them represented in the show again. This one just was not on my radar. I was like, oh my god, I got what I wanted. I got
Yeah,
an Ashley Johnson song in an episode this season. That was great.
yeah, and they picked my favorite one because they did put that album that I showed you on Spotify, and there's a couple that
Hmm.
I hadn't heard that I'm kind of whatever on, but like it's got that. It's got. I assume Bella will still do the take on me.
Yeah, I'm very certain we'll get that. We'll definitely get some songs with Bella, and I can't wait to get
Not
them. But
from
for now,
Pedro
that
though.
was great. Well, maybe in a flashback. We shall see.
Okay, so I'm going to complain about the way they have structured this nonsense. Okay, so you've done the grocery store completely unrelated to where it actually takes place in the game. Only for
Yeah, they moved it up a little.
only for the next episode to be where the grocery store should be, just so you can change who goes out on patrol with who for no reason.
I couldn't disagree more. I love this change. It opens up so many possibilities for the trajectory of these characters moving forward. The important stuff still happens pretty close. What happens to Joel, Ellie witnessing it, that's all very close to the game. But switching Dina and Tommy, I think is a great choice because now I'm fascinated to see where we go with those characters. And how we set them up in the first episode and these relationships. Because as much as we get to know and love Dina in the game, you know, we always only see her through Ellie's eyes and Tommy and all these other people. So now we've kind of branched out, made it a bit more of an ensemble thing. But, you know, we set up that connection more between Dina and Joel in the first episode. So having her there, for me, makes it even more tragic. It's tragic with Tommy too, just in a different way. And I'm fascinated to see what we do with those characters moving forward. Even though we know the plot's going to be very similar, we're going to stick to the main events. But what this does to Dina and Tommy as individuals, I can't wait to see that. I thought that stuff was wonderful.
Okay,
Okay.
so So sure, it gives us new possibilities, but erasing the stuff that people who are familiar with this material want to see. Where's the relationship building with Dina and Ellie that bit in the underground school place provided? Jesse provided nothing to that scene.
Oh, I completely disagree. They talk about Eugene. I like seeing more of
So all
Ellie
the
and
stuff that she did with
Jesse's
Dina.
relationship and band. Only a little bit. Well, in the context of the game, that's when we're getting to learn about that relationship because we don't see their first kiss up top in the game. That comes in a flashback later. With the show, we open with that. So we already got their first kiss on screen. We did a lot of setup for that relationship in the first episode. So yeah, we missed that scene, and there's some good stuff there that we lose. But again, I'm open to seeing how we explore that relationship moving
But the problem
forward
is
with it.
by cutting
It
that,
didn't lose a whole lot for me.
because that scene is very important in establishing that wasn't a one-off thing. They both want
Mhm.
this. Well,
Yeah,
now we just don't get that apparently. And yes, they
I
will
don't.
write something different, but you've already. But now I don't care because now, as a viewer, I want to see the vengeance. I want to see her on her mission. You should have already had all this stuff set up, but no, we have to change for the sake of change.
I didn't think it was change for the sake of change. I like this new spin we're getting on the story, but it's sticking close
But
enough.
what does it
And
improve
we
on
got
the
a
material? What part of this is an improvement?
well, we haven't seen the rest of this pay out, so like I can't compare 2 episodes to the complete package of the game. And obviously, this will be structured and paced differently over the course of multiple seasons. But now Dina's gonna feel a bit more responsibility and guilt over what happened to Joel than she had in the game. And I'm really curious how that's gonna affect her and Ellie's relationship, which again, we spent a lot of time setting up in the first episode. And with Tommy, we get this great story with him in this episode defending Jackson. But before that, he finds out on the radio that Joel and Dina aren't checking in. So he has this choice to make. Does he go out and look for Joel or does he stay with Jackson? He chooses to stay with Jackson. So we get this whole story with him defending his new family and how painful and difficult that experience is to only later get the gut punch that Joel didn't make it. And that is going to haunt him. In the game, he's certainly experienced his own form of PTSD actually being there. He certainly blames himself. He thinks he failed how that situation turned out. But in the show, it's like literally he chose his new family over his old family, Joel. And obviously, logically, that's not necessarily how that would have panned out. Like if he had gone out, probably would have died. But he's human. He's not going to think that way. So him not being there for Joel and finding out later what happened to him, like I think is really going to haunt him and might cause irrevocable damage to that relationship. So spending a lot
So
more
what we
time
already had with the
on
original story of
a
him
little bit, just with a new
causing
spin on it.
English. So we
So
haven't actually accomplished anything new. We just
I
changed
disagree
things to
completely.
get to the same endpoint.
No, I think we might get to the same endpoint, but the journey might be a little different. I think it's interesting. We are spending a lot more time because Tommy and Maria have like little to no screen time together in that second game. We're always just told about that relationship, which is fine. But in the show, we're really spending a lot more time on them as a couple and him being a father now. And then I can't wait to see how this affects him potentially choosing to leave Jackson and saying like I'm dead set on vengeance. I need to get away from this. Like, yeah. And the game had its own version and it handled great. A lot of the major beats are the same. This is still a very faithful adaptation, but just moving a few things around does create these new possibilities for how we can handle these characters moving forward. And I find that very exciting.
It's all now. I will happily change my mind at the payoff. All I can speak for is this episode. We were reviewing this episode. All of this was pointless change to get to the same end goal. You cut out all the Ellie and Dina relationship building that is vital in that first bit. You All you did was just change the matter of the way to get Tommy to the same end game, which is PTSD and running off to find the wolves. Knowing this show, he'll just listen to
It's
Maria and won't do anything.
I don't know. I haven't seen the rest of the show. It's still an extremely faithful adaptation. Like it's still sticking very close to my story. It's just changed and moved a few things. But
This
with Dina
reminds
being there with
me.
Joel,
This reminds me of an early 2000s adaptation where we hit the major beats, but way how we get there is different, and everybody's fine with it because that's all we have. It's not the early 2000s anymore. If you're going to adapt the fucking thing, why aren't we adapting it?
we are adapting it. We're translating it to a new medium, and it's a storyteller coming back and revisiting their material. Robert Kirkman did this with both Walking Dead and is doing it on Invincible. We have lots of adaptations like Invincible that do stick close to the material, but still have changes and still move things around.
Invincible moves
Because this
things
is not
around, but it's still the same material. It's not, we're going to change how this thing goes. The only, now, admittedly, it's been a minute since I've read Invincible, so I'm sure there's something minor. But the big thing that they changed was Amber, and nobody liked that.
mm. Well, and I haven't read Invincible. I'm just going off of hearsay, but the stuff with like the big Omni Man reveal, I know we moved that way up in
We
the
moved that
show.
up, but I mean, it's not, we didn't take path C to get to path A. We just took path A, but put path A here instead of like up here. Does that make
Well,
sense?
and yeah, but something like The Walking Dead, makes a lot of change. Like this is so far more faithful
Well,
than
if The
Walking Dead
Walking
was.
Dead is your gold standard, we're in trouble.
But I love plenty of adaptations that are one to one, or like Jurassic Park is very different from that book, and I like and respect the book, and I love the movie. I am fine with some changes here and there. It's exciting for me as a viewer because I know the big things that are coming, and a lot of this is sticking very close to the source material. But it's nice that there are still those surprises and these new twists on things, like Dina being with Joel. I don't know if we're ever gonna see get flashbacks to that last patrol with them, but I think that's a great choice, knowing that his last day was with her and knowing like, oh, like they were probably talking about Ellie, and because we set up more of that relationship in the first episode and how much closer this version of Joel is with Dina. And I'm sure on that patrol he probably had a very like traditional father talk, like, so what are your intentions with my daughter Ellie? So will we get to see that stuff? I don't know, but Dina being there, I think is a really interesting take. And again, the how she might potentially feel responsible and guilty over what happened, and the important information is still conveyed. We do see Dina notice the WLF patch. She hears the names, she knows these people. So the information's the same. For what's going to be the revenge quest moving forward. But again, I'm just really curious to see how this affects her character and that relationship. And also, it does change a little bit the whole circumstances around Joel's death of it's not just the blizzard and the infected. It's also he has this girl with him, Dina, who he sees like another daughter, and she's literally freezing to death and has to make this super tough call. Like, you once again, you set up that she's capable, knows what she's doing, but then in this episode we see like, oh yeah, this is still kind of just a kid, certainly to him at least, and she's literally freezing to death, and he has to make this really hard choice. Do I go back to Jackson, that's literally on fire and being attacked and potentially more dangerous, or take this risk with the stranger I just saved for shelter and help? And like the game, it's the wrong choice, and he doesn't know that. So
In the
again,
game, though, it's not a
aspects of that situation
choice.
are
They're
cool.
literally chased there by the horde.
They are chased there by the horde, like they are in the show. But then in the show, the horde then redirects and goes to Jackson, which
Which
Joel
I
now
think
sees
might have
on
been a
fire.
mistake, but we'll get to it here because I have conflicted thoughts. Call me cynical. That felt like a complaint, that a response. The whole pairing Dina off, and this is part of why I'm annoyed. Felt like a response to angry people on Reddit who complained that Joel died because he was too soft and gave people their name. So now what we've done is we gave it to Dina, who said his name out loud in front of strangers like an idiot, uh, and that's what gets him killed. So the people on the internet won't bitch that they ruined their precious Joel.
Again, it's the same outcome, but in the game, Tommy gives their names, and in the
But no,
show,
but people didn't notice that in the game. I'm not saying those people are
hmm,
correct, mind you. They didn't pay attention either. But this change felt like a change for those that weren't paying attention and went, "Oh, Joel's out of character. He would never give people his name.
Yeah,
That's
well,
why he got killed."
those people are going to complain regardless, and that's not personally how I read it. And again, I do need to watch the scene again, but I don't remember if Dina actually saw Abby when she was calling out Joel's name, or if she just heard the door open and was like, "Joel, Joel, what's going on?" I need to watch that scene again to see if
No, she
Dina
knew.
actually saw
I think
Abby.
Abby had. No, Abby had already shown herself. I think that's fair. But I stand by what I said. It really felt like, well, we got to fix this so that the people that complained about the game won't complain about the show.
Yeah, that's just not how I took it.
Call me
I just didn't
cynical.
think.
Well, golly, I'm glad that we got the different take on the material that I'm here to see adapted.
It adapted very closely. This is par for the course. I'm curious what adaptations you consider great adaptations that are like one to one, beat for beat, the same as the source material. Because I can't think of many. There's always changes. Whether you think they're good changes or bad changes, I'm always open. I'm just more open minded to a new spin on something, but it's still extremely.
And I will admit,
The
I'm a little
important
too
stuff is
close
still
to the.
there.
I admit that I am too close to the source material. But I think of stuff like, oh God, what was it? There was something a couple years ago that I watched where it was like, oh, this is Perks of Being a Wallflower. Great adaptation. Yeah, it makes a few changes, but it isn't just saying, well, we're going to change point A to point B so that we can end up back at point A anyway. It's, oh, I don't like how I did this. I'm going to fix it. Under the Red Hood, great adaptation. Removes all the nonsense, but it fixes it. This isn't improving or fixing the material. It is just changing it. That is dumb.
I disagree. I don't see that as inherently a problem.
The only reason that you need to change something is if it is something that needs to be fixed. If it is not broken, then you don't need to change it.
I disagree. I think creatives should have the freedom to do something a little differently or have a new take. I don't need beat for beat the literal exact same thing as long as it's close enough. As long as the major plot beats and the essence of the story and the characters are there, I'm satisfied. And with the show, I am. Do I think it's perfect? No, I have some issues. I have a couple gripes with this episode, but for the most part, it sticks very closely to it. It just has a couple of switch arounds in there that I'm really digging, and I can't wait to see what. Because for me, going into an adaptation of something I love, it's exciting to see something a little different and to be surprised. I want the best of both worlds. I want something faithful, but also still like something to surprise me.
Then this shouldn't have been an adaptation. Just make a new story in this world.
But it sticks so close to the games in ways most adaptations do not. There is dialogue that is lifted right from the games. There are shots that are lifted right from the games. It's still extremely
Which
faithful.
just makes it worse than when we don't get other stuff from the game. Why do I get this from the game, but then I can't get this from the game?
You're not making the show.
Okay, but I'm here to review it. I'm watching it. I should be able to have an opinion. If you're going to do this, then just do it. If you want to make changes, just go make your own story in this world, like the Fallout game or Fallout show. Sorry, that doesn't have to be a perfect adaptation because it's not adapting any of the games.
And again, I say this is sticking extremely closely to the source material. You're just very fickle about adaptation in a way that I'm not. You're more of a purist than I am, and that's fine. That's your opinion. I'm just more.
For the record, before everybody comes for me in the comments, I'm not saying Robert is wrong. I mean, he is, but no, I'm just kidding. He's free to not care if it's super accurate. It's 2025.
It's very accurate.
We should be above these. Well, we got to make these little changes.
We're not making the show. That's up to them. And it's not just Craig Mazin's take on The Last of Us. It's Craig Mazin with Neil Druckmann, the creator and writer in the first place. And it's their collaboration. And
that's why I don't trust that he's not doing some of this stuff as a response to the reaction of the game.
That's not how I'm reading it. But again, we've seen this before, like with Robert Kirkman adapting. Even if you're going to say, like, well, Walking Dead Season 1 was more faithful to the comics, it's very faithful. Also, some major changes and characters omitted. That first season is not a one-to-one the first 6 issues of that comic. There are major changes. So I'm
Yeah, but
used to
I
it,
can also
and I'm
point to
open
these
to it.
things and say this is an improvement. I can't
I
point
can,
to anything in either season of this show that I can say is an improvement over the source material.
but I don't have that need for improvement the way you do, as long as I personally am satisfied with the story. I have the games, I love them, and for the most part, I'm satisfied with the show.
But if you
I
can't
don't
improve
see
something, why change it?
again, it's for the sake of the story. It's for the sake of a new idea, which I'm open to. And again, I think it's also debatable when we're looking at 2 episodes compared to an entire package of a game. And I'm not saying it's there yet. I'm just saying, as much as I love that second game and think it's great, there is the potential for me that the TV adaptation could surpass the game version for me. And so far, I'm pretty on board with a lot of these changes. And again, in a way, I was never going to be with that first one. Like, that first game is very precious to me. I think it's perfect. It's my favorite video game of all time. The show was never going to top that. But what I got, I was very satisfied with, and I liked a lot. Season 2 and beyond, I think there is that chance that this could surpass the second game for me, as much as I love the game. And again, just the relationship with these characters, the way we're setting them up. Like, I like how much we took our time with that first episode, and the second episode was okay. This is the big one, and the whole battle at Jackson, in my opinion, was an improvement. That's something we don't get in the game, and I thought that was amazing. The spectacle was wonderful. We get this whole story with Tommy there that
Okay,
we
so do
don't
you want
get
to move
in the
into
game
that?
because we are shifting perspectives. Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna give my big pro, which is exactly what I wanted: more infected, more action. Here's my cons. A, I think you made Abby irredeemable in this episode. B, they did it. I bet you anything. Now, this is a bet. This is not me saying, "Oh, for sure they have done this." For anybody in the chat, I have a feeling they have blown their entire infected load this episode, just like they did last season. And the next, because this is episode 2, so there's what, 5 more episodes, and the next 5 episodes will be the same goddamn thing that we had last season. Where
Yeah,
it's
I don't think
like
that at
you
all.
maybe get a clicker at best after this.
I'm very certain we'll get at least one big set piece with Infected. Will we get that every episode? Of course not. I absolutely expect the next episode to be a calm down, just aftermath episode, which is fine for a TV show. The game's structured the same way. That after Joel's death, we slow down a lot. We take our time before we really get knee deep in Seattle, before the Infected show up and you start fighting again. Like,
I'm
that's
not
a
saying for
good
the very next
piece of
episode there needs to be
gameplay.
more infected. No, next episode should actually absolutely be a down. But they've done this once before already, and I don't trust them.
But also, our last like big episode of spectacle in season 1 with Infected was 5 of 9. That was past the halfway point. And then again, one of my favorite episodes is the Big David episode, which doesn't have any Infected, but still has a ton of tension and some action and violence, and really enjoyed it. So this season, I'm very confident. Yeah, we'll get at least one more episode with a lot of big spectacle with Infected. As long, what we need is just more of those individual one-off random encounters, just as that reminder of, okay, these Infected are still out there. They can pop up. Like, there's danger around every corner. That's an important thing to sell. Do I need hordes and hordes of Infected every other episode? I personally do not. What we got in this episode, I thought, was amazing. As long as we get that at least one more episode of plus action with the wolves and the Seraphites. Like, there's a lot of things that are going to be going on over the course of the season that
I don't think we'll see
worried about.
some of that. I don't know if we'll actually see much of the Wolf and Seraphite stuff until next season. If the next 5 episodes, well, because next episode will probably be like and Jareth, I see your comment. I'll get to it in just a moment. If the next episode is the fallout, Ellie recovering, planning to go back to Seattle, and then I assume going to Seattle, and then I assume the end of that episode will be, hey, I'm going whether they want me to or
Yeah.
not. I assume the next few episodes after that will be, Seattle day 1, 2, and 3. I have a feeling you're right. It's going to end on the "we let you live" and you
Yeah.
wasted
Oh,
it.
I'm dreading that. Yeah, like I think we are going to end on a cliffhanger.
That's a mistake. I don't think ending on a cliffhanger is a mistake. I think ending on that cliffhanger is a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
stand by Joel's death should have been the cliffhanger for this season.
but now you're saying, well, they should have moved these things in the way that I wanted them to,
So
which
I'm
is
saying
nice
that's what
too.
I think should have done. However, I'm not saying that would have been the correct. That's what I would have liked to see, but that may not have turned out. Maybe that is something they considered, and
I'm sure
that
they did.
didn't
Yeah.
work out. But I'm saying that because we've already shifted some of the late game flashbacks to the front. If you're going to do that
Mhm.
already, then maybe this season should have just been from the end of the first game to the Joel's death and all the stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe that wouldn't have worked. Maybe not. I don't
Well, we are. Go ahead and read that comment, and I'll
know.
get back to my point.
So I understand what John is saying about improving when adapting, and I agree. However, I don't understand why people want this show so close to the game. You can go back and enjoy it any time. That is
Yeah.
true. But my thing is, if I'm going to watch something that is adapting something that I like or that I love, and admittedly, I am too close to the source material, I can recognize that. Why shouldn't I want to see the things that I like in this adaptation? I like that scene with Ellie and Dina. I like the dynamic that they have where Dina's like, I'm going to go with you to make sure that you stay safe. We've changed that now. Because I assume that Dina's going to be just as vengeance hungry. Assuming.
Potentially. But
Which ruins that
there's a
dynamic.
cute. Oh, I disagree. There's a cute moment I like where early on when Ellie's with Jesse, which is very similar to the game, Ellie says, I'm going to go out on patrol with Joel. And he's like, no, I wanted to let you sleep. So Joel took Dina on patrol. Little touches like that I like a lot. And again, I'm guessing, I don't know if we'll see these flashbacks or not, but I like to think that Joel and Dina were talking about Ellie and where their relationship might be going, and that's why he took her on patrol, and why Dina, would have been fine with letting Ellie sleep in after that crazy night. So all of that totally worked for me. And Seth's apology, very close to the game, but did come off a little more sincere to me in this version than the game version. That makes me think, like, I think we're going to see more of Seth in the show than we
So
get in the game. That's
it
the last
it
we ever see.
it did come off much more sincere, but I still have the same problem that I do in the game, where I think Ellie comes off looking like a massive bitch
Mm-hmm.
for no reason. Like I get that he said something hurtful and like he was in the wrong,
She's
but
also 19. That's how 19-year-olds respond to that stuff, typically.
fair enough. That's why teenagers are dumb. I hate them. Um, where were we? I forget.
I have no idea. So I need to see how the rest of the season plays out, but also I'm really curious how the flashbacks are gonna be handled. Like, I think it's possible that Pedro is in every episode this season, and that there could, even if it's just one flash, we might get a flashback per episode.
Okay,
I could,
refresh my memory because I know we've got the birthday one,
that's the big one
and they
that
didn't
we
either
haven't gotten
didn't or just aren't going to do it or didn't show haven't shown yet their big reconciliation.
that they're definitely saving for later, which they strongly hint at in this episode. So that is absolutely coming. That's
I'm
definitely
gonna
be the
cry
final
foul at
flashback.
that. You showed the entire lead up, but now you're gonna save the last 2 seconds. Like
Yeah, it's set up and
pick
payoff.
a lane.
It's not. It's also not 2 seconds. Like, that is a full conversation. So again, it's very similar to the game. They're saving that final conversation for later. But yeah, the birthday is the big one. I don't know if we get that next or later. I could see the next episode opening with the flashback of Joel giving Ellie the guitar, and then coming back to the present, dealing with his
That
death and
oh
the
yeah,
aftermath. So
I forgot we
I
haven't
could,
shown that either.
yeah, so I could see every episode having like at least one token flashback. And
That's
what I was getting at
that's
earlier,
annoying.
I mean, there's a lot of flashbacks in the game. It's the structure is not that dissimilar. But what I was hinting at earlier is there are mysteries and relationships and things though that we are teasing and setting up that we haven't paid off yet, which is why see why this is structured the way it is, particularly in the character of Eugene, who we talk about again in here.
Because he's been cast, right?
He has been cast, and we haven't seen his flashback yet. So that's a big one that I think is going to be an addition. Whatever happened, because again, similar to the game, Jesse and Ellie are talking about Eugene and him being a fire, and her finding out that he was a Firefly. But then when Jesse talks about like him dying and Joel having to do what he did, Ellie has a very interesting look on her face. Like there's like she's quiet, but there's something she knows about that situation that we don't know yet. So that's definitely going to be a big thing they expand on. So again, with the nonlinear structure, you are teasing and setting up these little mysteries like Joel and Ellie's relationship like we do in the game with what she knows or doesn't know about the Firefly stuff. We will get that payoff later, probably in episode 6. We'll see. So again, the structure's very similar to the game, and so far I need to see the whole picture, but so far I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean that's the disclaimer with anything, right? Like my reactions are these are all just real time, like with based on the knowledge that I have currently, and the fact that I'm sorry, I don't trust them. They're going to do something. I can just feel it. Uh,
Well, and I also understand that with the show, you're getting a week to week format where they're very particular about the information when we do and don't get and the experience we get week to week. And for many people like you, not enough infected stuff in the back half of season 1, which I agree with to an extent. But these are all factors you have to consider in the TV medium that you don't have with the game. Where if you really like with a game, you play that at your own pace, and if you really want, you can do the whole thing over a couple days, like most of us gamers will do. So stuff like Abby's backstory, getting that front, I think was a smart choice. And while we both agree that cliffhanger's gonna be pretty annoying if that happens exactly like it does in the game, at least we have the context for Abby's motivation and why she did what she did. Like you can't make people wait 2 years for that
yeah.
information. So stuff like that's fine.
No, and that's stuff that's smart because it's not okay. So I'm going to use two scenes as an example. So we get the Abby flashback, which kind of just is her first flashback, like but at the very end of it. So we just take that almost scene for scene, we just put it somewhere else. That's fine. I'm cool with that, especially for necessary information. Then take this episode, Dina going off with Joel. So plot point D is the game plot point. Plot point A is the show plot point. Plot point A starts here, diverts to point C, then back to B, just to get to the same goddamn thing at D when they could have just
But
went A to D.
I also don't think you're looking at it as its own piece.
I'm not.
You're
It's an
looking at it from
adaptation of The Last of Us. I am judging it as an
you
adaptation of The Last of
you
Us.
should also be judging it on how it on its own merits and does it work as its own singular piece. And for me, it mostly does. Yeah,
I
like
said
you,
I
I
was
am
too
very
close to the
attached to the
source
material.
material.
But back to the Jackson battle. I was
I'm
very
glad we
impressed.
get one bloater per season.
Yeah,
That was
maybe.
that
I
was
mean,
that was a joke. Before you go,
I my head canon is it's the same bloater. He's just been walking.
I
He
hope
has
so.
this long, epic journey, just walking, and got a really epic final fight with Tommy. We got the flamethrowers. That was
We
really
did.
cool.
That was cool. Although,
I liked.
did you have a moment because we get to the final bit with the bloater, and he's like burning it. It didn't look like the fire was touching it, and he was just like burning fuel. It's like you gotta get a little closer. Like you gotta actually hit it, and then it just fell over dead anyway.
Well, that's scary. No, that totally worked for me. It just took a long time. You could tell in a couple close-ups that like it was roasting. It was just
Well, like I could see it was
slowly
on
winding down.
fire, but like at the very end there,
Mhm.
it looked like he wasn't hitting it with the fire, but he was still
Well, it
shooting.
was it was going out though. Like the flame was like he was running out of fuel.
Okay.
And it
I don't know
looked
how
so it looked
flamethrowers
like
work.
it looks like he was fucked, but then the bloater, similar to the games, was just like and fell over dead. You know what I was worried was gonna happen that I wouldn't have liked?
Mm.
I thought where that scene was going was, oh, Maria's gonna show up and kill the bloater and save Tommy. Which I would have been like,
Who?
okay, his wife.
Oh,
Uh I thought that's where we were going, and then I was relieved, like, no, no, let that be Tommy's moment. I'm glad they didn't take that away from him. That whole battle, and I was pretty on point last week talking about speculating like, is Jackson gonna fall completely? The answer is not really, but they lost a lot of people. Like the infected did get in the wall, a lot of shit got fucked up. But it's not like the whole wall came down. They just have a breach, that they can put shit in
Yeah,
front
in
of
the
for
middle
now.
of
But
the
it's
blizzard.
gonna take a long time for them to
Okay,
get to the state they were
so
before.
I'm gonna throw you a bone from our season 1 commentary. I still don't like this change, but this is the best use of the tendrils that I've seen across this entire show.
That was great. Uh, yeah, how they activate and draw that whole horde toward Jackson specifically.
Also,
That
how
all played
dumb
out
are
well.
they? They've taken this long and they never noticed.
Well, the guy was digging out the shit and then saw the tendrils and was like, "Fuck!" Like, because it was like dead. There was dead shit on
Did
top
they
of it.
take care of any of those, by the way, or are they still just there?
I don't remember. But the one guy did like notice them and then ran off and was yelling at Telly Talk, so they know about it. So whether that happens between episodes or they actually address that on screen, like they know about it, that they need to burn all that shit.
Jared says,
Uh,
I'm not sure how much of a reason there is to adapt video games with that much mocap in the story." So I will say I don't need this adaptation. I was worried about it when they announced it. This, as much as I complain, this is still the best case scenario compared to the movie that we almost got, which would have been terrible. Um, but if you're when I'm talking about the show, I'm just looking at what we got, not if it's necessary or if there was a reason to. Just what we have as an adaptation of that material. And to me, if you are adapting that material, it is taking that off the. I almost said off the page because usually this is a discussion about like adapting books off the screen and putting it on another screen. I'm more lenient when adapting books because often that is an 800 to 900 page book that you were trying to fit into a 2 hour movie. And there's a lot of like descriptions and character thoughts that you can either convey elsewhere or whatever. This is just taking one from one visual medium and moving it to another. And yes, TV has constraints that video games don't, but you can plan around that, which this show does sometimes. Other times, I don't know what the hell they're doing. But anyway,
they're picking the most essential moments, and cutting the less essential ones, which I'm fine with. But also to answer Jareth's question, I've always said in the case like this, and not just The Last of Us, people say like God of War, whatever. Oh well, that's a very story driven game. Why adapt that into a show or a movie? And for me, it's always like, well, to give it to an audience that doesn't play video games, because a lot of those people exist. And if the story's strong enough, I think it's worth getting out there in these other versions. Is it one to one exactly the same thing? No, but I'm open to changes as long as the core essence of the story and the characters and major plot beats are there, which I think for me, this show mostly succeeds at pulling off. So I have friends who didn't play the games who are getting a wonderful experience with this show, and experience that I can now share with them because they don't play video games. And so for any story driven game, it's the exact same thing with comic books, where there are people for whatever reason will just never read a comic book, and getting and of course this doesn't happen all the time with comics, but if you can get like a close adaptation for somebody to watch, then great. Just having that story out there and other versions, I'm totally up for that. And as for like movie remakes, the reason why I'm usually harsher on those is if something is a great movie, in my opinion, it's like, well, then you can just watch the same fucking movie. Why make the same
I
fucking
can use
movie
that
again?
same argument. What if people don't like old film?
That's a different experience. There's a difference between watching an old movie and like physically reading a comic
I
book
mean,
or
I
physically
agree with you,
playing a game. Oh.
but there are people out there who refuse to watch
Mhm.
an older movie.
Yeah, well, and
So
there are people that like just won't watch black and white movies. I can't relate
yeah,
to it. I don't understand it. But of
yeah.
course, back in the day, we got a whole slew of those. Like here's the colorized version.
So if you're going to
Because
remake
they're
that movie for those people that won't watch it, regardless of your opinion if it should be remade, wouldn't you want them to have the closest same experience to the source to the original as you had?
as long as it's close enough. I think Night of the Living Dead is a perfect example. Well, I have issues with that remake. there are areas where I think there are improvements, like the Barbara character, but also the ending's different. And I don't really, again, the ending of the black and white film, I think, is perfect for Romero's vision of that version. And the ending of the remake isn't exactly the same, but I like it. Like, that's an
I
example of
think
when I wouldn't call it an improvement, but I think it works
I think that you
for that
use that
version.
example just because okay, because I don't disagree with you. I like the remake. The problem with me being with the problem with judging that, for changing the ending is that ending works in 1968 because it's saying something.
Mhm.
It's not saying quite the same thing in 1990.
In 1990.
So you'd have to change that to keep the tone. But like say RoboCop, okay, they remade RoboCop and ripped out all the satire, all the gore, all the violence. But the beats are still there. He's a cop that died, got brought back as a robot, fought an Ed 209, but they fucked it up, even with those same beats.
But with RoboCop, now we're getting way off track. I think there was potential
Welcome to our
for
RoboCop
a.
review, everyone.
I think there was a potential. I think that did have potential for a new take on that story there. With like, okay, let's do RoboCop, but what if he doesn't have his memories erased? Like, what if he at the start remembers who he was? And then has to deal with being in this new fucking body and this whole new experience. I wouldn't call that an improvement. It's just like if that's the starting place and that's it. It's just like okay, well here's this spin on it. I'd say okay, interesting. I think that has potential. I wouldn't call it better, but I call it interesting. But when you also remove the gore and the satire and everything that made RoboCop RoboCop, then and when what you're trying to do you're doing poorly,
So you
uh,
agree that it's all the
that's why I
little
think it's
things that
important.
add up that make something special.
That's some. Um, and in the case of The Last of Us, plenty of the little things are intact for me, and new little things are added that I'm really appreciating. But with RoboCop, it's just like, no, I think that could have been a good remake with a new take on that story. It just wasn't executed well, in my
That's an
opinion.
understatement. I never thought I'd see a RoboCop movie that made RoboCop 3 watchable.
Oh, I still need to see RoboCop 3.
Excited to
But
show it to you one of these days. Anyway, okay, so should we get into the Abby of it all?
sure,
This Abby is a sociopath.
she's
Um,
crazy.
who I think they take too far if they want me to buy at the end that she's no different than Joel.
It's challenging. She's
Um,
fueled by hate and revenge.
yes, but Game Abby didn't let an entire town burn to get her revenge. The moment you do that, I don't care what her motivations are. You've taken it too far. She's
Well,
a
also,
sociopath.
to be fair, she has very little context for that situation and that town and those people. And I mean, she's like 4 or 5
Okay,
other people. How much could they really do?
but
Um,
don't
they're
don't
not her
quote
people.
me. Don't quote me that she has no context because later on she's going to adopt two children that she has no context
Mhm.
for. But she
Well,
let
because
an
they saved a
entire
life.
Joel saved her life.
But yeah, but Joel, she already has a hate for. She already knows
Okay,
of
but
those people.
what did the other people do to her?
They save her, and she doesn't. Her whole growth in that story is learning to see them as individuals and not just a group. I mean, she's killed a lot of fucking Seraphites, and that's a story for another time. But no, I didn't think this was too off-brand for Abby. Like, yeah, she's consumed with vengeance. She's let her hate control her. I mean, let me ask you this: do you buy Darth Vader's redemption in Return of the Jedi?
Yeah,
He killed children.
that's stuff that's added later. To be fair,
He watched Alderaan blown up.
but
Like
also,
he killed a lot of
but
people.
also, with Star Wars, there is a mystical force to it, a mystical side where Darth Vader as the way I see it, is a different person than Anakin. Anakin died on Mustafar,
Sure.
so that's not a common.
Well, and before
That's
that, he
not
killed children. But anyway, it's all about how you execute the story. And for anyone worried or thinking like, oh, are they gonna water down Joel's death? Nope. It's
no.
very
It's
brutal.
somehow worse.
That one change is in the game when she hits him in the golf club, hits him with the golf club. She hits him in the head, and then we cut. Here she hits him in the leg with it, and then she hits him in the leg with it a lot, and it's fucking brutal.
Did
Um,
you notice she broke the fucking club?
yep. That shit was
I
very intense.
I don't know. Abby, like, it's obviously implied. We talked about this with Born Again, Daredevil. I think there's one thing to imply that something has been done and still ask me to suspend my belief in redeeming a character or letting a character come back to life, versus letting me see something and then still asking me to do the same thing. I don't know if they should have shown any of it if they later want us to go, oh, Abby really wasn't that bad.
And I think it's more complicated than just she wasn't that bad. It's this horrible tragedy happened to her. And as we're going to see the story unfold, this is not going to bring her peace. This isn't going to
But
fix her problem.
and this is a lot of this is assumption before y'all come at me in the comments again. But the show, if it goes the way of the game, is going to ask me to forgive her. That is a lot easier to stomach if I didn't see exactly what happened.
That's what makes it challenging. That's what makes it interesting. Which is funny. I mean, Walking Dead ran into kind of the same thing with Negan, right? Where he's introduced doing this horrible, violent thing, and that in both the comic and the show, his redemption takes a long time.
Well, and personally, I always thought it was a mistake to do that. You should have just killed him.
Yeah, it's complicated. With Abby, though, I think one thing the show might benefit from if we drop the 3-day Seattle structure. If one thing the show could benefit from is really spending more time on her relationship with those two kids and her stuff with Isaac and the Seraphites and letting that stuff breathe a little. Because I would say with the game, as much as I think that story is functional, like it works, at the end of the day, Abby and Lev are literally meant to be mirrors of Joel and Ellie in that relationship. And in the game, that happens literally over the course of 2.5 days. Whereas with Joel and Ellie, that's almost a year. And those are 2 really big days, but it's still not going to have the same impact and have the same weight that relationship with Joel and Ellie does. So I think with the show, there is potential to really flesh out that side of the story and spend more time on that stuff, which could be great. Because with Joel, this is somebody who murdered her father, and that's all she cares about. And then now what? So yeah, she's sadistic. It's awful. It's challenging. You're supposed to hate her. You're supposed to feel the hate that Ellie does. And then the question is, over the course of the story, can you forgive her? Can you forgive her, and can Ellie forgive her?
Honestly, because I didn't have as strong a reaction in the game, and I think it's because you don't see it. This Abby, I don't think deserves it. I'm just gonna be honest. There is a difference between vengeance and cruelty.
He's pretty cruel in the game.
But again, it's all about what you see, right? I can suspend my disbelief that she put him out of his misery rather quickly. Maybe a few hits, and then when we burst in, it's
more
done.
than a few hits.
You didn't hear what I said.
That's after a shotgun blast in the leg, and after she asked Mel to tourniquet it to draw it out. Like, this is all in the game.
You didn't hear what I said. I said I can imagine it's been a few hits because I don't know exactly how long passes from that first hit to when Ellie shows up. Here, it doesn't matter because we instantly start with torture.
Yeah, like we do in the game.
But again, you don't see it in the game. I don't
see quite a bit of it.
In the game, she shotguns his leg to stop him from moving. Sure, yes. That's not necessarily... That is a form of torture, but that's more so he can't escape now. Whatever. She's a bitch, but I understand what she's doing. And then I think we see the tourniquet, so she doesn't bleed. He doesn't bleed to death. And then she just raises the club, and then it switched perspective, right?
Well, she says, and it's the same line in the show, "You stupid old man, you don't get to rush this," and then hits him and then we cut.
Right. So we only see one hit, and then Ellie shows up, presumably interrupting them.
And
So
when
we
Ellie shows up, when Ellie shows up, she sees Abby hitting Joel on the bank repeatedly, and also his face is really fucked up. She sees Abby hitting him repeatedly when she walks in. I'm just
okay.
saying that's how it happened in the game. So
But
yeah, it's
I
fucked
feel
up.
like there's a difference between that and watching her drive that thing into his shotgun's leg.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It
Yeah, it's
felt
true.
different in the game. But anyway, the last thing I want to talk about is I was really confused with Ellie. She takes like one blow to the gut and then can't move
Oh, like her ribs are smashed. It's like no, she can't breathe.
from
She's
one
fucked
punch.
up. No, she is kicked in the ribs. That's like a potential from a grown ass man. Like that's potentially fatal. Like she is fucked up. Game Ellie gets to take a lot more damage than TV Ellie because it's a video game. Uh, but yeah, she's
And
fucked
cutscene
up.
Ellie would have brushed that off.
But no, and if you're listening, like she can barely breathe. Like yeah, that totally incapacitates her. And I thought it was a great sound, but a great addition of seeing her just slowly crawl to Joel and just laying on his body, just holding his hand, like just that drawing that moment out. I thought was great, and I thought wonderfully acted by Bella. I thought
Bella
that
was
whole
good.
sequence was very. I thought the whole sequence was very
I
emotional.
just I don't know, especially with that scene. If you're going to ask me later to forgive her, then you can't double down on the sadism.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, see if they pull it off, because
Do
yeah,
you, with what you know, do you forgive her?
I mean, have I ever forgiven Game Abby? I mean, not entirely, but I get why the story plays out the way it does. And what they it's not about me forgiving Abby, it's understanding that if Ellie does get that revenge and ever kill her, then that's not going to make the pain go away. That's what the point of that story is that's not going to fix her problems, which is the point of Abby's story. She did get her revenge, she did get her catharsis, and it doesn't fix it. It takes saving those children to make the nightmares go away, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the show handles that storyline. So I mean, do I forgive her right now? No, of course not. Like, yeah, I hate her like everyone does, which is by design. Um, but yeah, they gotta spend a lot of time on her in future episodes. And again, we already do have a bit of context for why she did what she did, and yeah,
You know
it's
why she did
sadistic.
it, but
But we're also gonna see Ellie do some fucking sadistic shit.
I think the difference, because I was talking to one of my friends who was only experiencing this through the show. Abby comes off as a crazy person, and I wonder if this might have been part of the some of the harm of having that first flashback. Is because then you really dive in that she's been holding on to this for 5 years. When you don't, they don't make a big deal out of that in the game, so I'm not thinking about it playing the game.
Mhm.
But it's like it's been 5 years. Like, yeah, I get it still hurts, but you're kind of psychotic for traveling all the way out here 5 years later to do this. Whereas with
Sure,
Ellie, I can
and
understand where she's coming from because it's been like a day, or whatever.
well, and I think that's what you're supposed to think right now because that's all the context you have. But all those flashbacks and the rest of her story will be fleshed out later, similar to Ellie and Joel's relationship, where in the context of this first episode, it's like, oh, have they been fighting for 5 years? Why is she so angry at him? And as we'll find out later, no, that's not what the whole 5 years were. Like they actually had a lot of good times that we just haven't seen yet. And I think with Abby, we're just right now dwelling on the hate, the violence, the vengeance, and I think later we'll get maybe actually some flashbacks of her with her father, like some positive memories and her experiences with Owen and her friends. Like that story will come later. Seeing this other side of this character, because right now it's by design that we've just seen the hate and the anger and pain of this person. I think Caitlin did a wonderful job conveying that. Like,
She's
yeah,
great.
and yeah, it's fucked up. But the story needs to go there. Yeah, it's about the cycle of violence, and that's a really important point to hammer home.
Well, thank
I
God
was
Ellie learns that lesson after she kills all those people. No, I mean I like the game, but that has always been something that's really goofy for me. She murders all those people, but the moral lesson was don't kill Abby, and you'll feel better.
it's more complicated than that. It's the fact that that ending doesn't work if Lev isn't there. It's putting the needs of that child who she doesn't know above her revenge. What she understands is that there is this young person that Abby cares about and is willing to die for, and letting that go
It was
and
mostly
giving those
joking.
people a shot. I
Yes,
understand.
I've played the game. We'll see.
We'll
This
see.
stuff that we're talking about now is 5, 6 years down.
Lots of speculation. Yeah, well, we'll be back in 2032. Last of
Did you notice they aged Abby up?
they did a little, and I think that was just because of the casting. So like,
More than a
look, I mean,
little, because she says I was 19.
mhm.
Whereas in the game, I'm relatively sure the idea is that she's the same age as Abby.
Yeah. Well, in the game, she's supposed to be the same age as Ellie, which honestly I never liked because she looked so much older.
Yeah.
Like I never bought that. But what
I
the
also
idea
don't know if I
is,
buy that Caitlyn Denver is 5 years older than Bella Ramsey.
I mean, she is.
Is she?
She's like, yeah, she's like 6 or 7 years older than Bella.
Damn.
But I think the idea they're going for in this version is that when Abby lost her father, she was the age that Ellie is now. So that's the parallel they're going with. I think they were just like, yeah, we cast an actress in her late 20s. Let's just let the character be in her mid 20s. I think it's fine.
I hope they stick the landing, is all.
Me too, for sure. And yeah, like fuck, a lot of scenes is just really hard to watch, but
No, I
terrible acting.
even I found it hard to watch, and I don't normally care about that stuff. Like, yeah,
And you knew it was coming.
yeah. No, the minute they met, I was like, oh. Okay,
Mhm.
so I have one other small complaint. This is a fear fanboy thing. Okay, so one of my favorite things about the show, the game version, is the sense of dread that you feel the moment that Tommy and Joel walk into that building, and there's a
Mhm.
specific music cue that they
Mhm.
play the minute they walk in. I wish they had done some of that. I felt zero tension when they walked in, other than I knew what was happening.
No, I felt the tension, especially since we had the context up top. Like, no, I felt it. In the game, it's a very particular, like, there's something not right about this, but you don't know what, because you don't have that context yet. Here, we
Oh,
already know that Abby's on this revenge quest, so
and my
I
favorite
thought the
thing,
tension was there.
because I've never agreed with Joel more, is when Abby won't stop monologuing. He's
Oh,
like,
thank you.
"Would you shut up? Did you?"
I was gonna bring that up as a gripe, and then they kind of win me over at the end. I did think the monologue went on longer than it needed to because I was like, okay, what is she, Mike Flanagan? What's she doing?
No,
Uh,
I agree. That's why I loved it, because Joel just said what I was thinking in that moment. Would
yeah,
you please shut the fuck up?
that was great. And again, it TV Joel does get a little bit more context than Game Joel. Like Game Joel's just like, look, I've killed a lot of people over the years. Just
Yeah,
get it
because
over with.
we
Like
have to
you're
continue to
angry at me
soften up game TV Joel.
by a little bit. It's great. And but because he gets a bit more of that context when Abby tells him like you killed my father, prepared to die, uh, he gives her a little nod. Like there is this moment on his face of like you can get what you're doing. Like he accepts his fate, and he's not going to escalate that situation because of Dina being there. So that all made sense to me. But then when the monologue kept going, and he said, "Shut the fuck up and get it over with," like that was great.
Yeah, because
Um,
Game Joel's like, I don't care. Just do what you came
yeah.
to do and get it over with. Why can't we
Mhm.
have that Joel?
It's a different spin. It's a
I'm
different actor,
glad Joel
and
gave her permission. It's okay that you're killing me.
no, it's an understanding. It's just yeah, I get it. It's a very little moment. And Also, like at the end when he's dying and Ellie is like pleading with him to get up, it's like you see him actually trying to get up, and it's really hard to watch. And they really sell it. But also in the context of this version, there's so much going on in Joel's head uh, before shit hits the fan, where all he knows is Jackson is on fire. Like he's thinking about Tommy, Ellie, are they safe? Like what's going on? And in his final moments, it's like there's got to be some level of catharsis, as tragic and horrible that is, that he sees that Ellie's there and is maybe gonna be safe.
The
Since
other
he,
thing that I think,
spared
because
Tina.
I forgot about this when we were talking about, I think Ellie or Abby comes off way more unlikable here. And I think part of it is the monologue. She has that whole spiel about how she was trained not to kill unarmed civilians.
Mhm.
Lady, you left an entire town to burn.
And to be fair, those are her people. Like,
You are a
that's our
hypocrite
people.
and a murderer. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, your dad died.
Yeah. Well, Ellie just lost her father, and we know what that's gonna do to her. But I thought that was interesting, though, that little bit of setup we got for Isaac in his philosophy. That's something I can't wait to see more of in the show with Jeffrey Wright. Because that character is really cool, and he's in like 2 scenes of the game.
But that also
Uh,
doesn't add up with the WLF from the game. They were
Honestly,
militia.
what she said was we don't kill. What she said was like we don't kill people who can't defend
Defend
themselves
themselves.
or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, that tracks with how they view the Seraphites. Like it's a war that they're
Yeah, but the
fighting. Not people
WLF, from what I remember
yeah.
in the game, starts as an uprising. And they
Mhm.
executed dozens of people.
Yeah, because it's war.
I'm sure all those
I think
people that they
it's-
executed could defend themselves.
well, it's maybe militias are inconsistent. You know, hot take. These are things the story could be exploring, and you know
Then
you
why
get
add
lots of.
that?
It's interesting. You get lots of pieces of information about Isaac through like letters and notes and shit, but you only actually see him in 2 scenes. So that is an aspect of the show I'm really looking forward to.
That I'm
Expanding
interested
on
in,
that character.
just because we got that actor back.
And also, it's like, no, I'm cool with torturing people because we know they do that. It's like, no, we keep prisoners of war, but I mean, I'm not gonna kill them, but it's prisoner of war. Like, I'm cool with torture. That dichotomy I think is interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing that get fleshed out.
I'm afraid that it won't. I don't know.
I mean, I'm very
I
certain we're
don't
gonna
trust
get
them.
more screen time with them. Okay.
Like they've added all this stuff while also reducing the episode count, mind you, of this season. I don't know what the other seasons are going to be, but at the
Well,
rate that they
also,
keep adding stuff, you're gonna have to make 6 more seasons to do all the payoff all this stuff.
no. Yeah, I don't know how much of him we're gonna get this season, but I could see us getting a lot more next season. If that is the more Abby centric side of the story. We'll see.
Also, if the Ellie stuff is only what that'd be 4 episodes, because not counting the next episode, which will probably be just the cool off, that's gonna be disappointing.
Yeah, 4 episodes is a lot. It's all about pacing.
Not the way they do shit. They're I am scared that they're gonna do the same thing they did last season, where the first few episodes were almost pitch perfect. The first 2 episodes of that first season are almost perfect recreations
And
of the game.
made a lot of changes.
And then after episode 3, because they wasted an entire hour, they sprint through the rest of the material. They're going to do the same goddamn thing here. I can tell. That's what I'm worried about.
There are really key specific moments they need to hit, and plenty of stuff they can trim. It's a game. It's fine that as Ellie you're killing hundreds of people and hundreds of infected. It's a game. That's where the gameplay is. You can trim a lot of that for the show. You need to hit the really big moments.
So then just make a clip show.
In between.
If that's all you want is just clip out the important parts.
I don't need nonstop action. Again, I need some action. I need the important stuff. I need her killing Abby's group, but also people who weren't there. Like that's important. That we see Ellie kill some people who weren't involved in Joel's death. Like there's a great bit in that second game when Ellie has that girl at knife point, like has that knife to her throat, and then panics and stabs her and kills her, and like kind of freaks her out because it's like, oh god, I didn't mean to kill this person. Like, who I don't know. Like, I hope that moment's in the show somewhere.
Okay,
So you need violence, you need action, but but like all that Seattle stuff with her and Dina, it's like you can cut like half of that. Like it's great for the game, but you don't need every single bit. You don't need the bank. Like you don't need every bit of that stuff in the show, in my opinion. The music store where she finds the guitar and sings "Take on Me," like that needs to be there. That's
the
important.
bank I will give you because that's really just there to get the shotgun. But it's it's them in a strange land or a strange place full of militia. No, there better be a lot of guys that need to be killed. There better be all of the character stuff through those interactions. Dina needs to be the voice of reason because that's the role that she serves in the story. I don't trust that that's what this Dina is going to be because now she's compromised. So we've ruined that entire dynamic by changing her role in the story.
I don't think so at all. I think it's interesting, and I can't wait to see how it's handled.
Then okay, so then they're both just going to be vengeance fueled idiots, which I
Necessarily.
guess would line up with the first episode where they're idiots that almost get everyone else killed.
I'm not assuming that at all. I think just speculating. I think Demon is going to carry a lot of guilt and feel a lot of responsibility for what happened with Joel, and then I think it's going to catch up to her and make her worried that the same thing's going to happen to Ellie. So I think she will still probably be that voice of reason. I need to see how it plays out. And as far as like, okay, so you got the Ellie Dina stuff. That's probably like a couple episodes, right? Then Ellie and Jesse, that can just be one episode. That's enough. And then the finale would be possibly Ellie killing Mel and Owen. Like that's a really big like I could see the torture with Nora happening in like episode 6. And then her killing Mel and Owen in the finale. But we'll see.
So we're just
Um
going to jump from the hospital all the way to the aquarium.
Not necessarily.
Okay, but
I mean, we're
so
speculating. Like we don't know.
right, this is all speculation, and I'm asking you in a speculation terms, in your speculation. The problem with doing the cliff notes is that these are people in a place that they don't know. Rushing it, you're gonna cut out all of the like, where are we? We're stuck. We're abandoned.
But
We're looking for supplies.
you can montage and jump cut some stuff in a show that's harder to do in the game because in the game you're literally walking the character from point A to point B. Like yeah, you can trim some of that stuff.
But here's where my distrust comes in because that's not what they did in the first season. They just cut all that stuff. There was no, you know, we're foraging for supplies. We're in a new strange place. And don't tell me that Joel has been all over the country because I don't believe for a second that he has. There was no
We got
like
enough of
we're
that in
low
the
on
last game.
supplies. It was just we're going here, 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 and here, and this happened, but nothing that is actually life threatening except that one moment where he gets pathetically stabbed with the end of a baseball bat.
Yeah, and then all the shit that happens later. Yeah, that's just not an issue I've ever had with season 1. I agree that I think season 1, an extra episode, should have had some more encounters with infected. We've talked about this a million times.
Well, I'm just
As far
using that as an example for what I'm worried about with this season because I have
But
a
I also
feeling they're
think
going to
those
do the same thing.
individual episodes, like the Riley episode and the David episode, those have a really strong beginning, middle, and end that really work for the TV format. Yes, some extra action and shit is trimmed down for television because those really work as singular TV episodes with the beginning, middle, and end. And I think the show's going to be the same way. And again, I also think they're probably going to skirt around like the 3-day structure that the game has. I don't think they need to be as rigid with that as the game had to be. But we'll see. Maybe Ellie and Dina are in Seattle longer in the show. We just have to see how that stuff's paced out.
I don't know how that would work unless you're just not going to have her get pregnant.
I think she'll be pregnant. But I'm just saying maybe they'll be there like for a week instead of 3 days. That's all I'm saying. They
Because
might be more
the only
vague
reason they're only there
or
for 3 days is because she gets dreadfully
she
sick.
gets sick. Yeah. But I don't know how long it's going to take for that to happen. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could change the timeline, but if you're gonna do
I'm
that,
not saying
then
like substantially. I'm just saying like they don't need to stick to that rigid structure.
the
That's all.
problem with limiting it to 4 seasons or 4 episodes is because we know that this game is going to be multiple seasons.
Mhm.
I'm going to cry foul if these next 4 episodes are all of the Ellie and Seattle stuff, and then all of next season is just the Abby stuff. It should be
I don't know.
even. That's the point of the
Maybe more-
narrative.
Well, so you're saying they should change it from the game?
What do you mean?
Because the game is all Ellie's perspective and then all of Abby's perspective. If the show,
But they
follows
both
that
have
literally,
day 3 days in Seattle.
but they're happening concurrently. But we are presented that information with all of Ellie and then all of Abby. In the show, I could see us jumping back and forth. I'm really not sure. And again, I'm just guessing that we're going to end on that cliffhanger that we got in the game. Maybe we
Yeah.
won't. I don't know if we're.
It's
gonna
just
follow that
weird. Like,
continuity.
I'm having trouble picturing this vision of a 2 or 3 season adaptation when we're already here.
It depends on how the next season is handled, and as I've said before, that epilogue, I think there's a lot to expand on that, depending on where season 3 leaves off. But we'll see. And again, this hasn't even been confirmed. We know the show has been renewed for a 3rd season. We know they've talked about going to a 4th season, but that's also not.
Oh, okay. For some reason in my head, it's already been confirmed that it's going through to like
fine.
season 4.
Yeah, that's a thing they've talked about as a possibility. That has not been confirmed yet.
That makes me worried than what they're going to do. Is because that makes me wonder if what they're going to do instead is these last 4 episodes are going to be the Ellie stuff, and then the first half of season 3 is going to be the Abby stuff, and then they're going to have like a couple episodes at the end that's just the epilogue stuff.
Maybe.
And I guess it's not the worst way to do it. It's just maybe it's my OCD. Like I'd like it to be even.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But hey, we get the Cliff Notes version. That's fine.
Yeah, with extra stuff, and I'm enjoying the extra stuff. And again, I like that the first episode really took its time, and that we didn't get this there. I'm glad we saved.
I would have been pissed if that's how the fucking season started. Are you kidding me?
And to be fair, that's kind of how the game goes. You're less than like 2 hours into the game when that happened.
But that's still 2 hours, and there's lots of stuff that happens before that.
We've talked about this before, but if that first episode was an hour and a half, like the pilot was, I would have been worried. Like, oh fuck, we're gonna hit that in the first episode. But for you as a stickler for runtimes, we've been pretty consistent. Each episode has been under an hour. I don't know why this bothers you. This doesn't bother anybody else, but you do.
I don't know either. Well, okay. So here's why it bothers me, because season 1 is 9 episodes. You only have so much real estate. Originally 10. So you have this much real estate to work with. And this goes for any television show. But then you take away from one episode's story to add to another. And yes, I know what you're going to say, but bear with me for a moment. The story of The Last of Us is about Joel and Ellie, the first game in the first season. You took an entire hour away from that story and gave it to someone else. And then because you had to take time from another episode. What is it? Episode 9 is what, like 40 minutes? Is it which episode is it? There's one that's like 40 minutes.
The finale is like 45, and I think it could have been.
The finale is like 45 minutes. So because not only did you take away an entire hour, over an hour, from the Joel and Ellie narrative, then you had to remove time from another episode.
I don't think that's how it works. I think they just write the episode, shoot it, edit it, and the runtime is the runtime. This is just how we've been handling streaming television and prestige television. That's just kind of normal. Walking Dead used to have like, okay, this is the standard episode length, and these are the big extended hour and a half long episodes, and you never got any.
Admittedly, the
And
taking
then
time
the
from one
way-
episode and giving it to another, I pulled that out of my ass. I don't know if that's how that works. I
and
stand by
also,
what I said.
so
You took
it
an
has
entire
more-
hour away from the narrative.
But if we had stuck close to the game version of that story, that episode would end the exact same way with Ellie and Joel in the car driving off, and that would just be correct.
Yeah, a car that they
It
had
ended in
gotten,
the
that they
same-
had earned.
that they got from the same people that they got in the show. So, and I don't think, I've never thought, oh, it's taking away from later stuff, because if it was closer to the game, it would end in the same place. And I agree. Yeah, I think the season could have been an episode longer than it was. I'm glad this game, they're splitting into multiple seasons. We'll see where we're at the end of this season.
I think that's why I'm harder on this one, because you're doing the right thing by making it multiple seasons. Trying to fit that whole thing into one season would have been crazy. Like, I don't know if it's possible. But then I don't understand the formatting here. It's so strange. And we'll see. I will happily, at the end of the season, if this works for me, I will happily sing its praises. I will happily say, oh, this ended up working, they won me over. But if they don't, I'm going to call them out on it, because it's 2025. We should expect more.
I expect really good television, and I'm getting really good television. I'm pretty satisfied so far. And also, at the end of the season, whatever our feelings are, we're then going to have to wait another 2 years for the next season to see how that plays out.
This is why I hate television, dude. Imagine if it just got canceled like right after this season.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen.
That would have been this show like 10, 20 years ago.
Probably.
Or imagine if it got canceled after the episode after Joel's death.
And seeing this go week to week, it's going to be interesting. Like, is there a viewership drop off? Do people bail? I don't know. It'll just be curious.
I have been seeing a lot of people talking about this on like TikTok, but the problem with the TikTok audience is most of them are people who already knew it was coming. I don't have a good grasp of what the general audience like that doesn't know anything about The Last of Us.
It would be noted that, of course, the episode got really good reviews, but currently on IMDb, which is primarily users, not critics, just general people, this episode's doing extremely well. Positive. Now, I'm not saying it won't get review bombed inevitably. I'm sure it will. I'm sure there are people who are going to wake up tomorrow like, wait, who hated the game and aren't watching the show that are like, wait, that just happened? 0 out of 10. Like, I'm sure the review bombing will happen, but the fact that it hasn't happened yet, and currently it's doing exceptional on there, I think means something. I think the HBO audience understands what they're doing.
Robert, the most important opinion dropped. I don't know if you saw this, but I just sent it to you.
Oh, no.
I haven't actually read this yet, but this is obviously the most important opinion.
Yeah,
for anybody who doesn't know, IGN dropped an article. The Last of Us Season 2 changes to Abby weaken its most shocking moment. I haven't read this yet. Do you want to give us some notes?
I don't want to go through it. I read a blurb earlier, and this is from the IGN review, saying that they thought the big battle in Jackson took away from Joel's death, and that there was too much going on in this episode, and I didn't have that. Once the battle was done, we let that. We're not cutting back and forth too much. I didn't think Joel's death was compromised, in my opinion. Once we get to the big Joel stuff, I think we let that breathe and give that the attention it needs. I do not agree with IGN on this one. And that's all I really want to say.
Okay, so that's not what they're saying in this article.
Okay, and granted, this could be from a different reviewer, because there are reviewers who get the whole show in advance, and then reviewers reviewing it week to week, like we saw with Penguin. So it could be from a different review that I saw that.
I'll have to read this later. This person is like super wordy and rambly and it's all over the place. Speaking of video game adaptations, you guys seeing Until Dawn this weekend? I am not. I will see it when it hits video on demand. I have zero expectations, but you know what? I will give them this. At least they were upfront This isn't really an adaptation of Until Dawn.
Mhm. It's yeah. I'm not hyped for it. I'm not planning on
No.
seeing it theatrically, but
I think the thing that helps is I'm curious. The idea is interesting.
I think the idea of a Groundhog Day horror movie.
Where you're in a different horror movie every time.
Right.
However,
Well, it's like
it's written by Gary Doberman.
yes. That's if it was written by the Happy Death Day guys, I might have more interest. I don't know. But if it's like because Happy Death Day was like slasher meets Groundhog Day,
Oh, I
but
love that movie.
if this
You know who
but
wrote that, right?
blanking on their name.
It's a comic book
Okay.
writer. Pulling it. Don't
But
look it up. See if you can guess.
Oh, I don't. I got nothing.
Scott Lobdell.
I would have never guessed that. Good for Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
But
don't
it's
know.
interesting
The
that you
idea of, like,
mentioned that
Cabin in the
because
Woods, the idea like Cabin in the Woods meets Groundhog Day. I'm like, oh, that's a fun idea for a horror.
yeah,
Um,
and it's interesting that he mentioned that because that is so off the rails. I think I'm not as upset about that because A, it's Until Dawn. Like I'm not as, like that's a fine game, whatever. And B, you're starting at a place that is so off the rails that I can't look at it as an adaptation of that material because it's not.
mhm,
But Robert, we've once again gone for longer than the episode.
of course. Oh, this was a big one.
This
Lots
is
to talk
the
about.
big one. But I do want to
Mhm.
give more kudos to Bella Ramsey. She's really good at the emotional stuff. We'll see when it comes to the badass, vengeance person. I'm still not sold, but I'm open to it.
Yeah, she did a lot of her own stunts in that first episode. I think it's smart seeing her practice like jujitsu and shit. Uh, you know, because that fits that character for her fighting style. And like I said, I thought she had some cute moments, like when she had like the gas mask with the bong attached to it. I thought that was funny.
I
Um, good little moments like that, and
meant to
I'm
ask you
looking
because
forward to
I forget who was playing Eugene. It was like a big guy. It was a big name.
Joe Pantoliano. I never know how to pronounce his last name.
Oh,
That's
it's
the
Ben Ulrich from Daredevil,
yeah
the
the
movie
movie,
for
not the
people
show.
not as old as us.
Right. And when I mentioned that, you were like, "Oh, that's kind of young." Oh wait, that movie was over 20 years ago.
I was like,
But
wait.
yeah, I think that'll be like a big flashback for one episode. Because
I
we thought we might
Can I
do
just say though, I am really disappointed in that casting. You had the chance to get a perfect casting in Tommy Chong, and you didn't do it.
that. That's fine. But also one last thing, just as far as like the HBO audience goes and the structure being similar to the game but different. I do understand wanting to still hit Joel's death early in the season just to see how much you can keep people's attention for the rest of the season. Because if I'm just saying hypothetically, if you kill them at the end of the season and then expect people to come back 2 years later, I think you do run a higher risk of
That's
people checking
true.
out and saying, "Oh, I don't care." Like they kill my favorite
So
character.
I think the compromise here is it doesn't have to be the very last moment.
Mhm.
What you could have done is maybe at the end of episode 8, that episode ends with the shotgun. So 9 opens with him dead, and then the rest of the episode is Ellie, the fallout. Ellie's vengeance, and then you end with them leaving for Seattle.
Yeah, that's tough. I'm not saying that's wrong, but that also gives me like Negan flashbacks with how poorly that was handled and pissed people off.
Well,
It's
that's
tough. It's tough.
you can't use The Walking Dead as a sign of an adaptation because it's a piss poor adaptation, Rob.
Yeah, it's
That
very
show
true.
went off the rails years ago.
Yeah, sometimes it found its way back.
But by the time it did, the damage was already done.
Mhm.
Killing Carl was the dumbest thing.
That was a tough pill to swallow.
Well, anyway, that's been our review of The Last of Us and
Can I show this
RoboCop.
one more thing? And RoboCop, because I didn't show these off in the first episode. I know I've shown you these before, but these are my Joel and Ellie Last of Us
Hey,
Part
look,
2
it's
next
the
week.
real Joel.
Oh, it's the Troy Baker Joel. Great.
That's what I said.
And then Game Ellie from Part 2. I think I got these for Christmas a few years ago,
And
but
it's
they
the
are
real
awesome.
Ellie.
Yeah, they're the game. It's the Game Ellie.
Yeah, it's the one
yeah,
that I
love
like.
these characters. Love these characters, and those figures are great.
Okay,
Also,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if you were going to say this. I'll just say, to reiterate for anyone watching, we are planning on reviewing this week to week. Like, we might miss some episodes in the middle. Like, that might happen.
Robert's like, I don't want to do this every week.
Right. But we'll certainly, at the end of the season, do a long spiel on everything. But, Mondays aren't a usual show for us. You never know what's going to come up. But I'm glad we hit the big one.
Robert's like, I'm not going to be here next week. I'm tired. I'm done. I hate this channel.
What were you going to say?
Okay. So this isn't the show's fault, but I constantly have this thing where when we do the events of the game, I feel like I'm watching like a cosplay version. Bella's really good, but there was just something about the way that Ashley Johnson delivered that dialogue that's so much more impactful to me. And I don't know if that's just because of the first place I saw it. But do you ever have that with any of the scenes where it's like, yeah, I've heard this delivered, but better?
Sure. There are many instances where I'd say I prefer the game version, but I don't know. This was kind of on par for me. I thought everybody here was excellent. Uh, in the case of the David episode, when when Ellie tells him, tell him my name's Ellie, that Ellie's the girl who broke your fucking finger. I actually think Bella did that better than Ashley. Ashley's great, but
Ooh.
Bella goes to. They're both great, but Bella goes to such a primal, visceral place at the end of that episode that I was pretty floored by. But I love both, and I like having both.
How does it feel to be fucking wrong, Robert?
I get a whole lot of Last of Us to love. I'm very satisfied. What would you rate this episode? Did you like this more than the previous
I
episode?
liked it more than the previous. I'd give this an 8.
I give it a 9. Once again, we're not that far off. We both like the episode.
Yeah, no, like I started this by saying I like this episode, but it irritates me when they half-ass some of the adaptation.
And I don't think it's half-assing at all. It's just a different take that I'm open to. You're just more of a purist than I am, and that's fine.
Well, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do parts of the game, just do the whole game.
This is just how you are with adaptations. It's fine. That's fine. Yeah, no, the first episode for me was an 8. This one's a 9. Again, still had some gripes. It had some nitpicks, but I just the scale, the spectacle, all the
The effect effect was
locations and
awesome.
casting. Yeah,
I
it
wish
was
we'd
great.
seen a
And
few
also,
more humans die.
we saw a few. There's a great bit at the end. And again, these aren't characters we get to know, but like we see one survivor who's bit on the arm and just hands somebody a gun to just shoot him in the face. Little touches like that are great.
In the face.
Like, yeah, they lost a lot of people. Also used dogs. That was cool.
Yeah.
To kill infected, which is from the game. We see that a lot with the wolves. And then the big scene though, I shocked we glossed over, was Abby's escape, and then the bit with the fence on top of her, like just shot for shot from the game. I thought that was very impressive. And then
Yeah,
plays
to the
out very,
point where I was like, I don't know if she's gonna get through this for a second.
it's very close core. It's a very close call. And then same thing, Joel shoots one in the head, shoots a couple more, and I was like, that whole sequence I thought was amazing. Just the amount of extras and all the makeup and visual effects and everything. Very satisfied. Very satisfied.
Just don't let this be the token action scene. I beg of you, writers and creators of
I'm
The Last
sure
of Us.
we'll get at least one more. And I don't need this much infected action week to week when, again, we know that the wolves are coming and the Seraphites are coming. Yeah, you need the variety. And will we get another bloater this season? I don't know, but hopefully we get a shambler. I hope we get.
I don't need a horde every episode. But okay, here's the problem, Robert. So it's like with The Walking Dead. If in The Walking Dead, and I've only seen the first few seasons, and instead of weekly zombies, just maybe one or two, just to kind of keep the setting established, we would have no zombies for episodes and episodes, and then for a random token episode, we just threw in all of the zombies. That would be very
And
satisfying for a zombie story, would it?
every season had a couple of really big zombie episodes, and then a lot of
But they also
human-centric
had,
episodes.
oh, here's just a couple zombies here and a couple zombies there.
Which I agree, season one could use more of. I'm just saying, if you just had a clicker or two, or just one token
That's all I'm
infected
asking for.
episode, yeah, and I could have used more of that in season one. I agree. But
And
as
that's what
far
I
as the
don't want them
hordes
to
go,
repeat this season.
yeah, right. But also, it's
No, one big horde per season is plenty.
the spectacle is great. I don't know, but we're definitely getting another one, so I'm not worried about that. At the end of the season, how much infect? But so far, we've gotten plenty, and I'm very satisfied. But we're definitely gonna get at least one more big set piece with infected that I'm really looking forward to.
Can we get a spinoff about that bloater from Nebraska to wherever?
I want a vlog series. I want a vlog series.
Yes.
Like a TikTok weekly
update.
updates.
Can we do that, please?
For sure. And then a big one that we've talked about before, like the Rat King. If we do that, like that'll be next season. That won't be this season.
I will be pissed if we don't get the Rat King.
Okay. Unrelated question from Jareth. Did you guys see Sinners? I'm on the fence about seeing it in theaters. I saw it and really enjoyed it.
I will be waiting for video on demand, like with every new movie, because I don't have the money.
Yeah, Jareth, that's just depends on how much you like to wait, how much you like to go to the theater. I don't know you, man. Like, I think it's a very satisfying theatrical experience. So
if you make sure in important scenes you scream at the top of your lungs, "Chicken Jockey," and maybe take some food to throw at the screen.
I was very relieved that
the theatrical experience, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Now I'm really glad Minecraft was out a couple weeks before I went to see Sinners.
I'm gonna find your theater, Robert, and the next time you go see a movie, I'm gonna be there with chicken and just yell "Chicken Jockey" and throw chicken at you. Any final thoughts or anything else you want to talk about?
Nope. I think we covered everything. And just to circle back around, we got "Through the Valley" by Ash at the end. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Very satisfied. Hope we get a song from Troy down the road, and of course singing.
I will be shocked if we don't get his cover of Future Days, even if it wasn't in the Future Days episode, which that's why you should have had the last bit of that flashback there. That's where you play that song.
Yeah, no, I prefer the way I prefer saving that for later.
So you mean how the game did it?
Hmm? Like
so we should do we should do things like they're done in
There's a lot of things done like the source material. This is a very faithful adaptation. I'm super satisfied with it.
Now I'm just being a dick. Anyway, okay, I'm tired.
That's fine.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. We will be back Thursday and hopefully finishing Resident Evil 3, and then I will throw up a poll for what we should play next. And then Friday we're doing Saw 3. Robert, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the poll, but I believe at this point I'm just going to call it closed because we haven't gotten any votes in a couple days. The people want a commentary.
Hell yeah.
I will leave that up to you for blind or not, because it's not like you can't keep up with what's happening, and it might be fun to just get your reaction to the insane twist at the end.
That one I think I'd prefer to do blind, and we'll probably do the unrated version. Sorry if that's not streaming, but we both own the movie. I prefer to do that. The real cut.
The real cut. The whole 2 minutes of
the 2 minutes of extra core.
Saw 2 versus So, or excuse me, 3 rated versus unrated. Run times, please.
It's probably different by like a minute.
I mean, it's not huge, but the theatrical version of Saw 3 is an hour 48. The unrated version is 1 hour and 54. So that means they cut a
Okay.
shit ton of gore out.
That's substantial. And also, this was the 2000s. That was like the boom in. Well, if we put out the R-rated cut theatrically, we can then sell the unrated cut on DVD.
Even if it's only like
and
a
people will buy
minute.
that. Even if it's only a minute longer. We saw a huge explosion in that.
I
And then
remember that.
how much do you hate that? Just given the timing of when those movies are made, why is it that Saw 7 is the 3D?
I hate it
Because
so
whenever
much.
whenever I type Saw 3, I want to write Saw 3D because that's just correct, but no, that's the 7th movie for some reason.
The worst part about watching that is the effects are awful because of that 3D. Like the kill at the beginning, the blood is
I can
pink.
imagine.
But anyway, thanks for Jared. Thanks for hanging out. We will see you guys
Yeah,
this Thursday for Resident Evil 3. A lot of threes this week.